I just got to say with these monthly reports, I think because of the nature of the development now, where it's just content focused, there's not a whole lot to say or do or in these that is stuff that is like coming forward. But hopefully there's some good stuff in here. I haven't checked it out yet. And we'll see. I mean, obviously the AI content section for the last couple months at least have been hinting at Wicklow. So that's good, right? And that was valuable information that was like kind of hidden. We didn't really know what was going on, and then all of a sudden it happened, right? Unfortunately, this one is not leaning towards anything going forward. As far as I could tell, it's looking back as to what they did and what we've seen already. For a recent debut of Star Citizen's first alien NPC, Wicklow, and development continued on new behaviors to support some of the story developments happening in the verse in the coming months. Finally, for AI, they revisited issues in the population behaviors of existing landing zones. Okay, and then features. In March, the AI feature was the priority was the Valacar, specifically the Junior Valacar. Let's go with only the Junior Valacar because that's all we have, right? So, and that's probably all we're going to have for a really long time would be my guess. So it would be sick if we went further than this, but I'm not expecting much here, especially with the kind of simplicity of the Junior Valacar variant. As part of the polishing phase, the new functionality was added to support upcoming gameplay, including replacing ineffective melee attacks with a submerge and relocate behavior when the player gets close. That is kind of cool because it burrows and surprises you and stuff like that, which is nice. New firing modes were added to give better control over fire rate and damage per shot, depending on whether the target is on the ground or in the air. This is for NPCs. Whether the target's on the ground or in the air. I know the NPCs shoot at us, but they still don't have railguns. So, bespoke firing animation variants were also added when firing at more vertical angles. Okay. The team also iterated on the Copian, integrating new chase technology for more effective attacks, including a leap. When going for the Tundra Copian, I definitely died to them one time. So yeah, that's kind of working. For human combat, iteration continued on the first reaction flow escalation, specifically focusing on the animation step up for usables. So it works well if the AI is sitting in a chair, leaning on a railing, or crouching to inspect a maintenance panel. I don't recall. I'm like trying to think back to if, when they're in their like default chilling state and then they switch to you. It's always been kind of snappy and unnatural, so maybe this is trying to fix that, but I don't know if we have that in the game yet. Similarly, the team is refactoring the response to combat tactic events, such as needing to reload. This is now done with the tactic behavior itself rather than at a higher level, which allows more customization depending on the current situation. Okay. The development team for AI, still this Starscript stuff. Mission system does continue to explore ways to build a system that will be more efficient and simpler for the game designers to use. All fine and great, but very technical and not really for us. Last month, AI Tech continued to work on features that improve overall detail and quality, including finalizing work for the spatial priority solver. Again, this is all like super techie stuff. Additional adjustments were made to AI ship logic to enable it to work correctly with the new flight modes. Okay. Team currently working on NPC cover generation, optimizing places. This was stuff that we saw at CitizenCon 2024. And we have in the game now. It's just improving on it, I think. For navigation system, the devs fixed various bugs. Nothing crazy there. Animation team, including, continued developing various sizes of Valacar alongside making the updates to the Copian. It was probably just the Junior. Let's be honest here. They also updated the AI background animations and added disabled animations to the Argo Atlas. I wonder what that is. Maybe that's the thing that fixes us dying when we got into it, because that never happens anymore, which is great. New AI facial animation content was complete too, including for the Banu Mission Giver Wicklow. There you go. AI character team continued to work on a new creature for the PU. Do we have any idea of what creature is coming next? I think they said it was going to be a predator. Oh, no, they said the next creature was going to be a predator, right? That has to be the Junior Valakar. We did see like that cow thing with udders a while back from a sneak peek, so maybe it's that. They also kicked off new heavy armor and continued creating various rewards. Kicking off new heavy armor, is that the tracker armor that we have now, or is that a new armor? I'm assuming it's a new one. And then the concept art team explored ideas for new in-game rewards and armors. Okay. Hopefully this is more Wicklow stuff. I'm curious, how do you guys like the idea of the Wicklow barter system versus what we already have? Personally, I want more Wicklow stuff, but not until they figure out the turn-ins. Turning into Wicklow is probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had in Star Citizen in my entire life, and it was horrible. At this point, we need to be able to like click something in our inventory and say turn in, something like that, right? If we could do that, that would be great. The idea that everything is done one mission at a time instead of saying, I have 1,000 X and, 100 gets me one thing, then I should get 10 things, right? That kind of logic not existing is pretty frustrating, but the idea of a barter is just fantastic. I love it. Art. Ships. Holy crap, this is long. Maybe we'll actually get something of use here because they can't possibly talk about the Golem and the Geo that much because that's at the top. The Misk Star Lancer TAC moved into the final development phase. Okay, I mean, that's not really a surprise, right? The Star Lancer's in. It's a pretty good ship outside of it being like super crammed with cargo and very hard to, interact with. But that's, not a surprise that it's coming, but that's great. I know a lot of people are excited for the tech. While the Consolidated Outland Pioneer progressed through Whitebox, benefiting from the additional concept work showed in a recent episode of Star Citizen Live. Wow. Okay. It's actually happening. They want to deliver a ship that crafts during this almost tells me like we have to get away from the tier 0 implementation of item recovery quickly. I know like my feelings are, hey, we're going to be kind of stuck with this for a while because that's what Star Citizen does. But yeah, whoa, that's moving pretty quick. So, but they release ships without their gameplay, so all the time. So yeah, I don't know. Do you think with this, with the Pioneer, do we get craft? Like, is the Pioneer the ship that's going to debut crafting? That's crazy, right? It can't. There's no way. And it's only passing through white box, gray box, final. It's going to sit there forever. I'm coping. An unannounced vehicle successfully passed through gray box review and moved into the Lot 0 phase. Lot 0 is like the final art phase, I think. 2 other vehicles received a bug fixing pass and final. Lot 0 is like the first very high poly version, I think, and then it goes. I can't remember that, but yeah, I think it's like one of the last things they do before they like do the last things like destruction and stuff like that. They called it a vehicle, so I don't know if it's a ship or not. I'm assuming it's a ground vehicle then. 2 other vehicles received a bug fixing pass and final content work ahead of the release, and another new ship is currently being prepared for its gray box gate review. I gotta say, the constant churning of new stuff rather than going back and updating what we already have is starting to get a little out of control. Remember when they were doing gold standard passes? If you're going to achieve Star Citizen 1.0, you need to gold standard pass all the ships that you have. So when are they going to stop doing this and focus on what they already have? I have no idea. It's it's literally a disease at this point because the game is suffering from this disease. And everyone, every time I mention stuff like this is my issue with the ship sales. My issue isn't that they are selling ships. My issue isn't that necessarily that you're buying ships. I do think it totally undermines the game in more ways than one, but in this case more than ever, it's like you have an old ship that's not up to standard to like even loot its components or anything, right? And we're every time I look at this section, it's just constantly new instead of, you know, finishing what you started. So I don't think this experience of 1.0 is possible if they don't go back and fix a lot of what we have. I don't even know how engineering is going to be possible, right? Like, how is engineering even a thing in a situation like this? Some ships have it, others don't. It's just goofy and weird. Yeah, and then another new ship is currently being prepared. Okay, NA-based team progressed on 2 upcoming RSI ships. The first is the Apollo. Oh, okay, with hopefully medical gameplay improvements. Does anybody want, like, obviously people want the Apollo, but does anybody want the Apollo in the state that medical is in now? I wonder. Like, you got tier 0 item recovery. Does the Apollo come in with an update to the way we respawn? Right? Does it update with the, you know, like maybe there's a limit to how much you can respawn at your ship or something like that? So, why Apollo when Polaris? I believe the Apollo has the medical beds that you have at the hospitals, where no other ship has that, correct? I'm like 99% sure I'm correct on that, but I am not interested in medical gameplay at all. So for me, I only want to see the Apollo if they are addressing some of the issues around respawning. That would be cool. Yeah, it's modular. Like, you could choose to have the highest tier bed in there, but you have less beds, I think was the thing. So that passed its white box review and moved on to gray box. Some aspects progressed significantly due to utilization of extensive RSI kit. Okay. The second is the Perseus. So that is the Polaris's big gunned brother or sister, which I think a lot of people are excited about. It's basically, the Perseus is basically the Polaris killer, I think, which is kind of funny. Like the Apollo, some of the areas progress visually thanks to the RSI kit. We continue to work on 3 unannounced vehicles too, a variant of a popular ship past gray box review. So they do call vehicles and ships interchangeably. Another variant is approaching gray box review, while an all-new model entered production in preparation for its white box review in early April. Yeah, again, tons of new stuff, but no indication that, like, your Aurora is going to, you know, ever have a look. You know, they obviously fixed the cargo more recently, but I mean, like, a true look. I always skip through the community stuff because it's just like, it's always what they did and not necessarily what they're going to do, because they like to keep that a surprise. Core gameplay. All right, this is usually a good section as well, and it's nice and long, so that's good. Geo Atlas stuff. Weapon overheat mechanic for the parallax rifle. We all know these things exist. More weapons will gain the overheat mechanic in the future. Okay. Progress was made on engineering gameplay throughout March. Again, we talked about that just now. How do you get this without all the ships having components that you can access? I don't know, but I imagine whatever we think engineering is going to be, the first iteration of it is going to have to be only on the panel or something. I don't understand how this is going to work. With core gameplay supporting various teams with resource network issues and bugs. They also added auto throttling, which reverts to a lower or powered off state if an item doesn't have power during an update. Interesting. Okay. Changes were made with vehicle coolant. No more turning off your coolers is what I'm guessing from this. Now, effectiveness is based on the item's physical properties, with a specific amount of coolant counteracting heating caused by an equal amount of power. Coolant consumption uses deltas with a dynamic override. The maximum coolant request is based on the maximum power consumption multiplied by a resource network global parameter. So, you know, I wouldn't be upset by any of this stuff, because now what this starts to bring into play is competition stuff. Power plants, you might not want to use the stealth power plant because you don't have enough power pips to actually, you know, be effective and things like that. So now now, engineering and your choice as far as components with this one fix does sound like it's going to start to be more of a thing, which is really good. I am 100% in agreement with Wanted Tiger. Whatever they said, resource network issues and bugs, you better be fixing the reset stuff, because that is so frustrating. So that, I hope, is the number one priority for them. It might. So ship stuff matters now, but it's mostly geared towards stealth. And let's see what happens in the future with this coolant change, because now you actually have to think on, builds might be interesting more than they'll matter. I think they do matter now, but they'll be more interesting. The team also made progress towards implementing heat gameplay for ship thrusters. This involved adding filters to the engineering UI to allow players to only see items of a particular category. For example, all weapons or all items with malfunctions. I wonder if their idea here is to stop us from boosting so much and fly even slower, which, I don't know how flight model enjoyers feel about that. Selection improvements were also added to the UI. Now, left click will cycle through the two closest items, useful for doors covering components, and right click will show all overlapping items and allow selection. I feel like the way they describe that, once we get in and try it, it'll make a lot more sense. Work was also completed towards item recovery tier 0, with various items being added to blacklists. Yeah, great, fantastic. We love that. Progress was made on FPS radar and scanning. Now item components can be detected within vehicles while a player is inside and excluded when outside. The features debug tools were improved too. Oh, okay. So they're trying to ping with armor. I've seen that it's a thing now kind of on players, so it's happening. The ongoing transit system rework, known as transport system, progressed throughout March, with the team adding setup validation and debugging for non-physicalized carriages to better detect setup issues. The ability to connect carriage zones. Yeah, there's a lot of technical stuff. I wish they wrote, what does this mean for us? But just more progress towards it is more progress towards it, so I don't care. Keep going, rock and roll. Reward mechanic for collection missions was implemented. Again, we talked about that earlier. I think the reward mechanic is fantastic. The way it was implemented, not so fantastic, but kind of cool. We shouldn't have to use freight elevators as much as we do, right? For items that are handheld, it's just kind of weird. Sharing prerequisites was also implemented. So this allows players to invite others to accept contracts they would otherwise be ineligible for by providing they meet a specific requirement, such as locality or reputation. So they have to be in the same area, but not have low rep, but they don't have to have the, for example, HRT thing completed to get HRT shares. I like the idea personally of being able to only share with people that have completed that rep. I think it makes that rep more valuable, more important, and less cheesable. So, for example, I'm at VHRTs without ever really doing any bounties of my own. I just accepted. And the thing is I'm accepting bounty missions from Stanton while in Pyro. So I don't know what this locality thing is. So maybe that's coming in the future. But just the other day. So it's kind of goofy right now in that front. But yeah, I got VHRTs without ever doing a bounty. Or at least HRTs, and then I finished up 2 VHRT without it. Time was also spent on fixing bugs and improving robustness of the new player experience, alongside solving issues causing various missions to be disabled. Comms notifications progress too, including one-way comm calls from mission givers to players, and comms notifications being triggered by changing mission states, such as completed or failed. This is something they're trying to do more narrative stuff here. That's what this is here. And that's kind of cool. More on the comms notifications from Mission Logic. They began implementing 3D building blocks to display more interesting scenes, as the previous method was no longer supported by meshing. Finally, for core gameplay, improvements were made to commodity kiosks to give a better flow to transactions, while fixes were made for bugs related to hangars, freight elevators, and ship deliveries. They're still a mess, but I wonder what this commodity kiosk change is. I haven't noticed anything because I haven't done much commodity, right? Like, who do people still buy and sell commodities in as far as traders? Because the missions are so lucrative with no risk. Well, you do risk losing your rep, but the risk in terms of financial risk. So that's that's one that is interesting. And then economy, my favorite part of the game right now. Okay. The economy team provided balancing support for Supply or Die, with the devs deeming it overtuned on release. The biggest fucking understatement in the history of Star Citizen. There's billionaires in the game now. Great job, everyone. You did fantastic. And I don't know who wasn't going 25 million for a turn-in. Seems a bit much. But I'll just leave that there. Economy worked with mission design to address the issues quickly as possible without imposing hard limits. It was a little too late, I think, in that front. Going forward, both teams will collaborate more closely to establish a stable and holistic approach to balancing open-ended missions with multiple viable solutions. I really hope you address things in the PTU phase, right? It's like, how, again, I have to make a video about this. We're here. I really feel like we're in this point, but I don't think it's possible to do yet. But we need a CSM like Eve has. You need members from the community, not content creators. You need members from the community that play the game directly interacting with the company to tell them the issues that are going on in given areas of the game at all times. Like a weekly meeting, right? A weekly meeting with people who actually play the game and actually understand the issues that the players face like this could have been recognized like that. But there's this gap between the people who play and the people who are making decisions. And everything sits in that gap and never makes it where it needs to go, it seems. That's the vibe that I see from the experiences that we've had lately, is as they want the game to be more playable, you realize that the people who are, designing the game do not play it enough to understand what the issues are, right? Specifically on, the economy side. They're focused on their algorithms and this and that, but I don't think they have, and I don't expect them to, right? Their focus is on making the game. There's only 24 hours in a day. They need to have a life and they need to sleep. So the quickest way, and I think the most economical way, for lack of a better term, to like figure this stuff out is to interact with people who actually know what they're talking about. But the problem right now is the only people that have voices in the community, and this is why they're hated so much, seem to be content creators. So if there was ever a vote or anything like that, I feel like we should be almost excluded from these conversations, because there's plenty of people who play the game that deserve a voice on these specific topics that just don't have them. But yeah. Our aim is to maximize player choices and enable emerging gameplay, but balance against exploitable patterns. Okay. Just player-driven economy. I remember that. I remember those words, but maybe they want to take them back at this point. Graphics programming. Usually nothing crazy here for me. Planetech V5. Finalized distribution, much denser rock formations. This can't possibly be mineable rock formations because they would call them minables, I would guess. So this is probably just visual stuff. Fire is being mentioned, so maybe we're going to have that fire feature come online. And then Vulcan stability was improved after discussions with NVIDIA led to the diagnosis of 2 potential issues, one in the driver and one in the game. So that's cool. Mission design. Sandbox activity. Rayari and Wicklow. Anybody doing Rayari missions? They've given no incentive to do Rayari outside of money, but the money's shit, if I'm not mistaken. So I think those will be doable, but they were like, oh, we're going to tell our B story. And it was like, the entire NPC population is dead now because nobody turned in stuff to them. Oh, it's just super funny. And then speaking of that is narrative. Because again, it's not a narrative issue. It's a incentive issue in the game, right? And there's no incentive to work with Rayari whatsoever. Narrative also, this is all just Wicklow stuff. Narrative also ran a capture session that focused on adding dialogue to several upcoming missions, as well as introducing 2 new faction representatives who players will work with during specific contracts. One of them has to be Dooley. And then they also showed Tessa, like sneak peek Tessa a little bit, but one of them has to be Dooley because, oh my God, I just woke up, so I'm a little tired. Her name's escaping me right now, but she was at the studio filming. You guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Anna Demetriou. Thank you. I'm so sorry, Anna. She was at the studio filming. Dooley has to be. Given the nature of the story that's going on right now, if the headhunters are going to be in Stanton, who fights back the pirates in Stanton? The Civilian Defense Force. Who leads the Civilian Defense Force? Dooley. Who is the actor that plays Dooley? Anna Demetriou. So we know one of them for sure. What the other one is, yeah, people are guessing Tessa. I hope it's somebody else, but because I want Tessa to come back when the game is like done. Additionally, the team helped to refactor some older missions with updated contracts. Okay. Online tech. I don't see anything too crazy here. Nothing there that I would want to point out. Gas cloud detail and R&D. It has improved a little bit, right? They mentioned dynamic weather again with rain calculation, rain volume calculation. Very nice. Tech design, spent March working on an upcoming in-game event, supporting mission design with gameplay, logic flow, and setup. And VFX is Valacar and location teams, the laser platform, borehole, the cave, the satellite dish, all that. So that's the monthly report. Highlights for the ships. Probably this time for me. Maybe the whole narrative section with this in particular. So actual NPC dialogue, recording, things like that. Trying to think of what else was kind of I mean, the economy was a highlight as far as a joke goes. Comms calls, maybe. Because again, that plays into the whole, we think Dooley thing is coming. I mean, any transit system rework is a good one. Engineering is a highlight, but again, it's like, when are we going to see these things? I think, honestly, the only major highlight here was that really big ships were getting worked on, and ships that are supposed to and should come with gameplay, and we'll see. So that's the monthly report for this month, and yeah, it's I think this is just how they're going to go. It's a lot of what we did and a little bit of what we're going to do, and you know what? That's, I think, probably a good thing, given that stuff gets spoiled in the PTU already, and it's like, you know, are we going to have anything interesting or exciting or whatever? Yeah, I don't know. It's like, you kind of want to leave the game to be the exciting and interesting stuff. All the constant previews of what we're going to do is I think it hurts that excitement once you get in game. So I don't mind that these aren't as exciting as they were, or more like ship focused or something like that. But again, man, do I just want them to go back and redo some old ships. But they're going to just Mark II everything. I think that's the way they're going to do it.